andet ved det her. Okay, good morning. Welcome to this second week of TIMO. Today we're going to look at business models, the three important chapters of this business model canvas, and we're going to look at the technique of case analysis, which is a core element of this course. Everything is about looking into a case. We're going to do case analysis in the afternoon, and the report is also going to be based on case analysis. So we're going to be looking at this part, the what. What is it we're actually looking at, the value proposition. So basically the program is roughly something like lecture. I'm going to entertain you for 45 minutes and perhaps then some together with Rasmus. And then we're going to have A.T. Carney, a company presentation, who also worked with the case analysis. And then some more lecture and lunch break. And then you have the afternoon for group work and even more case analysis. So lots of case analysis today. But let's dive in. The business model. I mean, the business model is the core of this course. The definition is quite simple, that a business model describes the rationale of how an organization creates and delivers value. How do we get the money from our customer into the organization? So a business model is a framework for making money. It's simply a logic for how do we get someone to pay and buy our products and make the money. It's actually quite simple in that sense, but it's the set of activities that we do. It's this that makes the business model go around, that we think, how can we actually subtract this money from our customers? And the interesting thing is that the business model is not a strategy. The business model is a concrete set of activities, whereas a strategy is a vision, it's a cluster of decisions. A strategy is where we want the company to go. For instance, DTU has a strategy of excellence. So some of the decisions that are within this cluster of strategy, a cluster of decisions are, we have to search for the best students. We're going to promote someone to be the best PhDs. We're going to make sure we screen so we get the best papers and the best production at the university. So it's a cluster of decisions that is based on where do we want to be. So there's a big difference between the strategy and a business model. The business model canvas is a super nice tool. It simply tells us how do we go from a value proposition to the customer, how do we connect with the customer. It tells us how the revenue streams get in and how we work. So there's a customer side to the right, and there's an internal side to the left. And the internal side is everything we do within the company. The right side is everything we do to connect to the customer. So basically, we have an internal side, which are organizational performance. Last time we talked about efficiency and effectiveness. And the left side is all about efficiency. How do we make things work best and easily within our company? Whereas the right side is the competitive advantage. What are the value proposition we pose to our customer, and how does this customer relate to it? What is it that we want the customer to buy, and how do we present it to the customer? How do we connect to the customer? So we have the external and the internal side, organizational performance and competitive advantage. And basically we have efficiency and effectiveness. Efficiency, optimal use of resources. Effectiveness, how do we best reach our customers, make the decisions where we reach our customer. And in the end, that gives us a value proposition that our customers can connect to. So first we're going to focus on the value side, because the value side is where we meet the customer. That is where we translate technology into something that a user or a customer can use. So here, last week, we had some basic technologies. We had kayaks, different types. There were this the seagoing kayak, you had the competitive kayak, you had the one you buy in Walmart, and an inflatable kayak as well. And we did a simple analysis on this. But using the business model canvas, it gives us a framework, it gives us some building blocks, it gives us a way to understand how should we analyze this. So consider these three business models and just quickly, two and two, discuss what are the value side, what are the customer segments that these three types of kayaks connect to, and what are the value propositions. This is basically a renting service. You go to the beach and you rent a kayak. So quickly discuss for a couple of minutes, just to get this under your skin. What are the customer segments and what are the value proposition? And perhaps also discuss how do we connect to the customer in these three different markets. So please, wakey wakey, I know it's early. Yeah.
Men man kan hurtigt komme igennem hele materialet. Ja. Ja, og det er de her snakke, der kommer noget godt ud af. Altså.
Yeah. Okay, anyone want to comment on this? And just a reminder, there's about 80 people looking, logged in and then looking at the podcast. And those of you who sit right there, whatever's going on your screens is showing at their screens. So whatever obscene things or shopping or whatnot, it's going to be recorded and nicely available. Just remember. So anyone want to share some comments on this? Different markets, different value propositions. How do you view this? Well, lots of discussion. Anyone? It's not that hard. But it's quite fun to hear what you see. You discussed a lot. Can I ask you for a comment on this?
Yeah,
but you have to use this because this...
well, we just talked about that. It's basically three different kind of segments. The one in the lower left corner, that's more the professional. He doesn't really care what the price is. If he can get a 2-second advantage from this product, then he'll buy it.
Exactly.
In the top, it's more like a beginner hobby kind of canoe. And as you said yourself, that the one on the right, that's more for rental. So there the customer is not the people using it, it's the one that are renting it out to people. So that's basically just for having fun.
So did you talk about channels on this? How do you reach these customers?
For reaching them, well, I would say that for the professional, that's perhaps through a sponsorship, and in the top one that would be like advertising, and I think that the last one, for rental, it would probably just be having a good brand, probably.
Yeah, perhaps. Just being at the right place at the right time. You're at the beach, and then I can rent kayaks. So maybe a signboard is enough. People perhaps don't come just for kayaking. They come as that's an extra benefit. Other comments for this? Thank you so much. Sorry.
I heard a comment about brands. technically, you could, in the same company, take both the high-end sportsman and the hobbyist, because if you had the same brand, it might not be the same product. By sponsoring the sportsman, you could sell and have awareness for the hobby.
Yeah, you're going to build a different value proposition.
Yeah.
We know that these are different, but just by having him or Super Kayakers as a brand, you sort of get this value that even though I'm a slow-going kayaker, this is still the right thing.
It's a
and
really
we're going
good kayak.
a little bit faster than everyone else. So exactly, yeah, good point.
Yeah, in that point, you could probably compare it to car manufacturers that also sponsor a Formula One team. So you have the Formula One car and the Toyota family car. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. So, first of all, we have a building block that's called customer segments. So basically, you argue or you think, is it just one size fits all, or should we chop the market into pieces? And I wrote here markets of one and niche markets. They're basically two sides of the same coin. Markets of one relate to the fact that because we have a nice customization technology, then an individual customer can get his super nicely specific tailored product. There's only one buyer of that particular configuration, and that becomes the market of one. You sometimes see that in custom cars, you get that specific type. A niche market is, of course, several customers, but they all demand a specific configuration, a specific value proposition. We talk about customer segmentation when we can see that there are groups of customers that require specific solutions. They are nicely grouped into a lump, and then we can reach them through different channels. So if we have the high-end customers, they like personal contact. They like to be called up. They like to be approached in a specific way. Whereas some other types of customers, the mass market customers, well, signboards, whatever, mass market advertising, that's fine for them. Different types, different segments, and they require different relations. And as a company, we have to think about this. And that goes for technical products as well. If I'm dealing with an industrial company, how do I approach these? Is it custom? Is it standard product? Do we want to simply drive up to their front door and ask them and talk to them? Or do we contact them some other way? So we discuss the channels, or we discuss the segments. So not a simple question, a question. Could you come up with an example of companies from the same industry that delivers both to markets of one and mass markets? That means the super highly customized products for an individual buyer and for the mass market. Yeah.
It could be Siemens, who both produce washing machines, but also high-end X-ray machines for hospitals. Yeah.
So we have a company that delivers in completely different segments. They just make sure that they cut up the market. Other takers on this?
Up there, too.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Nike,
Yeah.
with its cheap shoes for everyone, sports and everything. And then they also have, you hear about these sneakers sold for 7,000 kroner each.
Yeah. There's money in customization.
Yep.
Of course, doing customization requires that you have a production facility and a configuration system that can handle this. Individual, personally tailored customization is super expensive. But if you can do as Nike or even M&M's, where you can have special prints on the M&M's, if you can do that nicely, technically robotized, then you can make a lot of money, because there's a huge premium to these markets of one or niche markets. And then we go to the value proposition. This is sort of the bread and butter. We deliver something for our customers, and they have to recognize this value. And here we have some different examples of value propositions. So basically, a value proposition, that's that aggregate, that bundle of benefits that the customer perceives, that we want the customer to perceive. And here we have 3 different car brands: a Citroën, mid-range thing. A BMW, nice and high-end, and then you have a Chinese something, BYD, and of course we see that they might have borrowed some design features, perhaps for a bit of this brand name rub-off. But basically when we look at features, we look at something that the customer or our competing competitors does not have. The things that can differentiate. And that could be newness, it could be performance. This one is slightly faster, computer that is bigger hard drive, bigger whatever. Could also be, as we talked about, customization. Mine is special, I can get this in a different color. Design, price, we've seen this. These things often come in waves, like 3D TV a couple of years ago. That was a rage. Everyone wanted a 3D TV. Suddenly we realized, oh, I get nauseated, I get sick, and the kids started throwing up. So perhaps 3D TVs weren't a big thing at all. But there was a huge push in this area. And it was a new distinctive feature, and we wanted that. And of course, this brand name reputation, which goes for the BMW, BYD example, that can be a huge benefit. If you have a brand name, you associate a number of factors with a particular product. But also, you gain reputation from it. I have this thing and it's expensive, and just because I have this thing, I'm part of a select club. We want to be part of that club. It signals something. So Rasmus, your bag example.
Yes. So this is another question for you. If you could help me define the value proposition of this refined plastic bag. So, when you use a plastic bag, what value does it bring you? What problem does it solve for you? Anyone? Yeah?
Hello?
Yeah?
This one is... okay.
Yeah.
Especially this one is for when you forget your own bag.
Okay.
Yeah, and for carrying home your things.
Yeah. So in the supermarket, for example.
In the supermarket, in the green store. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah.
Well, the plastic bag also kind of solve the problem with the paper bags, because the paper bags tend to break when it's a bit too heavy or there's a bit water in them. So the plastic bag kind of solves that problem.
Okay. So it's actually an improvement for the paper bags, but still to carry your stuff in.
Yeah.
It just makes it easier for you to carry your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next.
Up there.
And this particular bag also has handles so that you can carry your stuff easier.
Yes, you could probably also get them without handles. Yeah.
Differentiating from the classic American bag, which is paper and no handles, so you make sure you slip.
Yeah.
What about the color and the way it looks? Is it important to you?
No.
I think that depends on the customer.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Next one.
Yeah, next slide. Can you... Anyone else has a comment for this? The value proposition for the plastic bag?
So here we have a different bag. Solves the same value proposition.
With an expensive brand.
So
Yeah.
only difference is just the brand?
The difference would also be you cannot see what's in there, so you can carry whatever you want, and you can use it many, many times.
Yeah?
Concealed bag, yes.
Concealed bag effect. What do you carry in your...
It's mainly the prestige value associated with the Gucci bag
Yeah.
as compared to the simple
Yeah.
bag.
So brand name value is a huge thing.
So
And
what if
also
I
going
printed Gucci on the plastic bag? Would you pay the same for it?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Yes, there's a question or a comment down here.
Gucci bag probably also has like internal compartments and stuff. So the plastic bag is just one big room. Most likely, I haven't seen a plastic bag like that have internal compartments anyway.
Perfect,
Okay.
thank you.
Did you see, just a comment to that, did you see the company that produced a handbag, I can't remember which bag company it was, that resembled an IKEA bag. You know the blue IKEA bags? Or you can look it up, it's really nice. They took the IKEA bag and changed it into like a handbag or hand purse, and IKEA was just, nice, this is cool. So, yeah, anyways.
So this value proposition, basic same function, but we can add all sorts of features simply based on brand or the network that we ascribe to. And that also goes into the network size. So as we talked about last time, with phones, you subscribe to a network. Imagine you had a phone where you can only talk to a select group of people. Well, you would of course go to the network with the biggest size. So we have phone systems and software ecosystem. These things, they affect the value of the network and the customer group and segment that you subscribe to. And here we have two different types of payment systems. Of course, we have mobile pay and then Norwegian counterpart. So why don't we have mobile pay? I mean, mobile pay did try to enter the Norwegian market, failed miserably. What's going on here? Why is it that they don't enter the market or have some problems entering the market?
Is there anyone from Norway here? Maybe can help us answer this question.
So any comments on this? Why can't you just win over in a market like this?
Kasper?
Oh, sorry.
Well, most likely for the same reason why Vipps didn't win over in the in Denmark, because mobile pay is made by Danske Bank, and we know and trust Danske Bank more than we know and trust Vipps.
So this is a trust issue.
For me, anyway.
Yeah, that might be one reason.
So do
other ideas? Yeah. Oh, heads up, coffee.
Well, we discussed it a bit last time as well. Why Swipe didn't win over mobile pay, and that was a matter of entering the market first.
Yeah, that's one thing, and that's sort of the effect of entering the market first, because these have what we call network effects. And as soon as you have part of the market, and a large part of the market, then you exclude other people. If I enter the market and say, well, all my friends got this Vipps thing or mobile pay, I'm going to do the same. I'm probably not going to buy both or have both, but I'm going to get the same. So these are network effects. The value of the network increases with the size of the user base. So I'm going to go into the user base or to the network with the biggest user base. So, and these networks have super speed. When Vipps went on to the Norwegian market, it took only 6 months to acquire 1 million users. That's fast. That's really fast. So there was a huge gap, a huge need in the market. They had the perfect value proposition, and suddenly they were there. And now they're just sitting on top of the market. No one else is going to enter because they're going to use their exclusiveness. They're not going to make themselves compatible with anyone else. They're just going to keep making sure that no one else enters the market. And this brings us back to the channels. Challenge is how do we reach them? We talked about with the kayaks, but it's a thought of getting the customers to be aware that we actually have a product. We're here, please look. Hey, we're here. We have something to buy. Should we call them? And it's before the actual purchase process. Simply make people aware that there's a product, and also answering the simple question: how do our customers want to be reached? If we have existing customers, then we may have names, we may be able to send them an email. But we have all these different channels, and depending on the customer segment, the customer group, then they want to be reached in different ways. And that's for us to decide. We plan this. We think about what do our customers want. And basically, we have different channel types. Of course, we have the ones that partners have, but we also have the ones that we own ourselves. We can send a sales representative. It's expensive. He has to drive a lot. She has to drive a lot. But it's a way to get personal contact. You might also have a partner. We could call it indirect sales, where we simply have a wholesale. We buy to a store which resell it for us. We had the example of Steam last time. Valve would usually be selling games through stores. That would be partner stores, wholesalers, simply push a product. But then that means they have to leave some of the profit to the store owner, of course. If I don't own the store, then I have to leave some profit for them. So when they made the transition from selling physical products to just delivering on the internet, they simply made the jump from being a wholesaler, partner, indirect wholesale, to direct web sales. All the profit that were in between those layers, the distribution, the logistics, all the things. Prices didn't went down. As users, we didn't see any benefit of this. They just got everything in their pocket. So a complete different change, but it allows us to focus on who and how do we want to do this. It's nice to have direct specific stores that we can really focus on our products, but it's expensive. Do we have a sufficient customer base that we can actually have the store? 10 years ago, when you went to a car dealership, it would be only BMW, it would be only Citroën, it would be a single brand. Now they realize that the cost of having a shop and a service facility is super high, so now we have 3 or 4 brands in the same dealership. And they make sure that these competing brands are somewhat differentiated so they don't prey on each other, but they make a nice offering for the customers. But it's a way to consolidate the cost of having a specific store. It's a different way of doing it. So when a customer goes through our challenge, as a comment?
Yeah, just on you can just finish.
No, so when a customer goes through a challenge, it's basically 5 steps. First, awareness. Oh, there's something, perhaps it's interesting for me. Then you evaluate. I've seen this product. Oh, value proposition, super nice. My need is, and then I probably begin to compare with the competitors and also look at the prices. So I evaluate, and then I purchase. After the purchase is some sort of delivery, perhaps just over the counter, internet. I have to wait, gets by the mail, and then we have to do the after sales. And the after sales and the direct sales, that might not happen in the same channel. I might go to the store and buy something, a car or computer, but when I bought that thing, I register and I also give them my email. So there's going to be a lot of after sales, and people are going to be able to contact me from that. Oh, you bought your car, and perhaps you need new tires, and we got the special offer for you. So it's simply a way of milking the last Danish krone or dollar out of our customers. So that are the 5 phases in the channel. Yeah, Rasmus?
Well, just to take you also into most likely what's relevant for your case and for your casework you will do after these theory sessions is that you also might work with cases that do business-to-business sales. So then you could start to look at, well, should you market your product through sort of another supermarket function where you have a spot inside, like a Silvan or a Carras or whatever kind of supermarket, or do you want a platform where you can sell your own product, or do you want to put it on Amazon? It's just to consider that if your product is a business, or if your customer is a business customer, you might have to do different or use different channels than when you're working with private customers. So your choice of customer or your customer offer will influence the channel that you use. You could also choose to go to a messe, for example, and sell your product. Yeah.
Good. And then we have the revenue streams. That's the money coming in. Always remember, net income, revenues minus expenses. It doesn't really matter if you have huge revenue, if you have equally huge expenses, then you're not going to make any money. So just remember, there's the other side as well. But there are different streams. And it's interesting, or at least it's relevant to put these categories on. So you had asset sales, things over the counter, you get money. We do this every day. Usage fee, a service. Every time you use it, you pay a fee. Taxi cab, for instance. And then a variation subscription fee. You have some sort of access all the time, and you pay by month by something. Lending, rent. The difference between the usage fee and lend can be some sort of thinly veiled, but basically we're dealing with a time-based exclusive right. You get this room, or you get a summer house, you get something, and you have that. Same goes for the usage fee, but it assumes that there are larger capacities. Then there's licensing. Licensing means that you have the intellectual property right for something. And based on that, you can sell your license. You can license the right to use your product or your patent or your good idea. And brokerage, of course, and advertising. Have you seen any specific changes in app stores or things in the different revenue streams within the last couple of years? At least I've noticed some interesting differences or changes. Ideas takers? When you buy apps, have they changed in the way they are delivered?
Freemium?
Premium?
Yeah, meaning that there's buy in app. So instead of buying a game for 12 kroners, you buy it for free, and then you buy add-ons afterwards.
That's one change, yes? Sorry. Anyone else?
The iOS App Store now supports subscriptions for just general apps. It used to be that you could only provide as subscription if you had recurring content, like it's a newspaper or something like that. But now you can do it for anything. And this is to offset the recurring development cost for maintaining the program, or at least that's the claim.
Yeah. Other changes?
The Office package, before it was, they made it new like every year, every second year, and you bought it, then you have it forever. Now it's on a yearly basis that you buy the Office
So that's
365.
a subscription as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry, it's just, too much workout. Or something else, I don't know.
When you buy programs or such, you can also see, is it a license or is it a subscription fee? Because I know some of the expensive university programs, you buy a license, but you have to buy it once a year. So
it's basically a subscription fee, but it's covered up in a licensing scheme.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's a big difference for apps, at least, that we're going from just the asset sale, I'm buying this thing, to a subscription fee. And it's the idea of having simple asset sales is that there's a lot of customers coming in, and as long as they keep coming in, then the software developer is going to make money, because we're going to keep selling this. But there's probably a lot more money in subscriptions. As soon as we get people inside, we have their credit card, we get money every month or every year or whatever. Yeah, Rasmus?
Yeah, just another example. 2 years ago, I got a daughter. And then, of course, you start looking into all the practicalities that you need to take care of when you get a child. One thing is clothing. They need something to put on their bodies, surprisingly enough. And there I discovered a company that actually supplied subscription feed clothing for babies. So you paid a monthly fee. It was rather high. It was, I can't remember. You can look it up. It's about probably 400 or 500 kroners per month. And then you would continuously get the sizes that fit your baby at that level of age. And then you, of course, you would have to return the old clothing, so to say. And what was very nice is that they had wrapped it in this story about making something sustainable, that you could reuse it, and it was organic, and it was hand-picked cotton and everything. But what we also found out is that what you can do is that you can, like baby clothing is never worn out. So basically you can just go into a second-hand store, buy everything for like 10% of the price, and just go give it back. And then you do something good for Mødrehjælpen. I don't know if you know that, it's a Danish organization, but they do the same. You just have to go to the store itself. But they had made a really nice business out of basically renting you on a subscription fee-based baby clothing.
Yeah, good value proposition, different branding.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting. So there are different types of revenue streams. Basically, we have the fixed price menu. We often like that in a Scandinavian context. Oh, that's the price, I'm going to pay that. I don't want to haggle for the price. But there's also dynamic pricing, the negotiation. And if you go to markets, then there's some sort of assumption that you would haggle. You would sort of negotiate the price. And it goes for shops as well in Denmark. As soon as you buy something sufficiently large, you go from the fixed price to something about dynamic pricing. But there's also something about yield management. In the old days, when you made computer processors, you would make the same Intel, I-Core, whatever, 7 something. And after this, after production, it will be tested, and oh, it's 4 gigahertz and it's 3.5 gigahertz. So based on yield, you would set the price. And some of the super high-end stuff, you would pay an exorbitant amount for. And of course, those of us who were tinkers and like computers, we know that it's probably something about the voltage and cooling, and we would buy water coolers and liquid nitrogen coolers and something, and then we would buy the cheap processor and get the super speed. Yeah, yield pricing. It gives a different dynamic. But it's something that we use also when we select our customer segments. How do they want to negotiate the price? How should we use a price? And of course, there's auctions as well. But it's a completely different type of customer segment. You gather people in a room, you auction things out. But that's also changed with the internet. Suddenly we have internet auctions. Same business dynamic. You have people that go into a market, offer things up, and then you can bid. Here we have the customer relationships. How do we want to handle our customer? What sort of relationship do we want? And basically it's a question of what does our customer expect? Do they expect this personal relationship? Is it personal assistance? Do we call? Do we see someone? We always get this picture of, oh, we have this super nice dedicated call service. And then you call. And then you're put on hold for 3 hours. And then when you talk to someone, then they're probably pretty pissed and tired, and they redirect you to someone else. And you don't really match the picture. But that's one way of doing a call center. It could also be dedicated assistance. But that means that you allocate a resource, a person, to a customer. Usually we call this a key account manager. You have special customer, then you always talk to this guy. They can build a relationship, they can negotiate, they can do stuff together. Then we have self-service, the vending machine. You go and get something. A twist on the self-service is automated self-service, where we put some sort of logic into the system. Netflix, Amazon, these are examples of automated self-service. They register our preferences and they serve up what they think, based on the algorithm, is the optimal thing that we would choose. Oh, last year you bought something, you searched on vacation and skiing, so I'm going to serve up books and films on skiing. Nice, good. It's a way that simply offering the best product and try to push more sales. Another thing is communities. Many technical companies, they use communities. If you can't get the good service, then you can build a community. In Apple or whatever software company, there's always some sort of user forum. So if you can't get through to the customer service, you can't get a good answer, then you can talk to someone who had the same problem and probably found a workaround. It's not the official solution, but it's a workaround. So there's a community forming based on that. And as a company, you can support the community, or it can develop on the side. Of course, it's an advantage if you support the community, because then you'll be able to sort of manage and control it. And in the end, you have co-creation, which is basically inviting the customer in and saying, well, we want to hear your ideas. And every time someone's talking about innovation, we often talk about co-creation. Get the customer on board. We want to hear their ideas. We get to hear their stories. And then suddenly we can build a product that actually fits what the customer needs. Rasmus, here we have two completely different customer relationships.
Yeah, those of you familiar with Danish supermarkets, you probably know Irma, and those of you who are familiar with German and Danish supermarkets would definitely know Aldi. But if you go into Irma, at least in this case, you will have some guy basically telling you the name of the asparagus that you're about to eat when you get home. And say, oh, do you like these asparagus? No. Maybe we're just overstretching a little bit. But Irma is a really nice experience to go into. But it's super expensive. I can't remember how much more, but it's really expensive. Whereas in Aldi, well, basically you can just unwrap your own damn soda pop if you want it, and if you don't want it, well, just leave. It's a completely different experience. It also means that they have a completely different revenue streams and cost structure. Because, of course, Irma is a much more expensive business to run. So these are things that you need to consider when you do your case analysis, when you look into the case that you get and saying, well, what is the customer segment? What do they expect, or what do we think that they expect? How do we want to cater for their needs? Because this has a massive influence on the cost side of your business. Because Irma is a very expensive business to run. That's why they can charge 15 kroners for a liter of milk and 50 kroners for a bag of almonds, smoked almonds. But supermarkets is just a good example because it becomes so clear for us what is it that we actually pay for or what is it that we're willing to pay for. Because in both cases it's the same. You can go in, you can get your food, and you can get full in your stomach. Yeah?
So a small example here and a small exercise. Here we have two different products from the same company. On the left you have what's basically a tile cleaner. You go around, you first tile floors like this. And here you have a high pressure washing machine. So how would you understand the customer in these two situations? Take a couple of minutes to discuss how are these two types of customers and products different? What are the value propositions? How do you interact and how do you reach with these customers? So take a couple of minutes and discuss this. Yeah. Okay. Anyone want to comment on these two? I think they're interesting. I actually worked at a company a couple of years ago when they were developing that thing on the right. Comments, anything? I'm trying to hit you with the... No, I'll throw it right next time. Anyone? Or lots of discussion? No eye contact, no nothing? Can I throw it to you? No? Anyone? Ah, there's a brave guy. Thank you. Excellent.
We discussed the left side is more industrialized and right side is more private.
Mm.
The purpose is the same, to clean something. That's the value of it, but the communication could be the same channel or which side? The customer relation would be more different channels because if it's a company, then they would use different channels for the left side, depending on the needs.
Very precise. Thank you. Two different, a professional market on the left and a private market on the right. And of course, they would need different channels. What would the channels be that you would purchase these things in? Any comments on this? Yeah.
We talked about the one on the left could be simply just, you know, in a catalog that you send out to different companies. But also at fairs, you know, a lot of company meets once a year and show off their product and kind of have a more personal relationship to the different customers that they have because they need an ongoing relationship and not just one time. They need to company come back. And on the right side, it will be a bit more advertising, just in a normal, tilbudsavis. I don't know what it's called in Danish.
So what are the basic differences in the two value propositions? Any ideas on that? Anyone? Thank you.
One of them is more into it's more narrow the use case because it's mostly for cleaning tiles, or it could be some other flooring. But the other one could be also helpful for cleaning your car.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just two basic differences that I
They
see.
could basically solve the same problem. If we're just looking at tile cleaning, they could do the same. And as you say, one is super specialized to the job, and the other one is general and can be used for anything. And it's a very important distinction. And it's interesting that you pick up on it so quickly, because when I worked in the company, there was actually an internal discussion: should that product on the left side, should that be marketed as a consumer product, or should it be a professional product? And they were battling back and forth because they saw it as just an extension of the high-pressure cleaner. So after discussing back and forth, they came to the same conclusion as you do. Well, that is a much more narrow product. And being narrow means that the average consumer has no need for it. It takes up a lot of space. It's probably going to be used once or 2 times a year, unless you have a huge amount of tiles, which is not your average consumer. But the other one, that can solve the same thing. So the product on the left was put into the professional arena and marketed completely different. The high pressure you can buy in every tool market. The tile cleaner, you have to go to a specialist professional shop to buy. So completely different challenge, different ways of reaching your customers. The one on the tile cleaner also come with a service agreement, or you can at least buy a service agreement. So if you build a business around this, then you want 24-hour support, or at least you want some sort of support agreement that within 2 days I can get someone or a replacement, a guarantee like that. For your regular, everyday Bob user, I don't care if I have to wait a week. Perhaps it's even nice if it doesn't work and I don't have to go and clean when my wife says I have to do it. So there might be completely different incentives. But with that, other comments?
Which one?
Yeah.
Just maybe a small wrap-up. It's just to say that, so when you look at these products, then the value proposition becomes not just cleaning, but also, for example, having a service agreement. So all of a sudden, you have to consider the case that you your case analysis you do in the company you look at. What is the customer segment that you want to cater for? So what value proposition is it that you actually want to offer?
Good. And with that, we're going to take a 15-minute break. So 5 minutes past in here and ready. Thank you.